Hi everyone, welcome to Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Max Azarov, who is the co-founder of Novakid, which is a next generation early English learning platform. Thanks for joining us, Max.
Great to be on your podcast.
Brilliant. So we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass. But try to keep your answers to 1 word or 1 sentence only, okay?
I'll do my best.
All right. So the first one, how long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
Maybe about an hour.
Okay. Most embarrassing moment of your life?
That's the easy one. It was in kindergarten when I did number 2 in my bed. I really didn't want to get up.
All right. How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Not enough. I need lots of sleep. At least 6. At least 6
Okay.
hours.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Upcoming marketing trend is self-assembling manufacturing, when we can grow our new phones on trees.
Okay. The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Good question. There's too many. I'm going to have to pass on that.
Okay. Pick one.
I was tempted to say Paris, but it would be just, I guess, too common.
Okay. Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Probably Jack. I would go with Jack.
The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition.
Pass.
Okay. The biggest mistake of your career.
This was when I accepted executive position too early. I wasn't ready for it. But I learned a lot on that mistake.
Okay. How do you relax?
Read books and ride a motorcycle.
Okay. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
1. Exactly 1.
A habit of yours that you hate.
Good question. Too many. I don't think I can fit it in a single sentence.
Okay. The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
That's really... Yeah, I remember it. Interrupting other people. That's my really bad habit that I like to break at some point.
Okay. And the most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Being honest when you're delivering a negative feedback. I think it's really hard to do, but it's really important to build meaningful relationships.
Okay. And the last question is your favorite Netflix show?
That would be probably Dragon Prince.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but all right. So that's the end of the rapid fire round. You scored 7 on 10 because there are a couple of passes, and I guess there was a little bit of confusion in the middle. So you win a car. Just kidding, you win nothing. But that's the end of the rapid fire round. And we're going to go on to the bigger questions. The first one is quite general. What was your aim behind starting Novakid? Like, tell us something unique that led you on this journey.
Well, you'll be surprised, but it's really hard to find a good tutor for your kid when you want to good English tutor for your kid when you don't live in countries where English is widely spoken, and that's kind of the problem where I found myself in. Because I had a son who was I think 6 at the time, and I wanted him to have somebody to train, practice his English with, and it was hard. The best I could find was basically some students who just happened to be in the country, and that they were offered a job at these language centers, but those were just students. They had no idea how to teach kids. They were completely clueless, so it was a problem. And I started thinking, maybe there's a way to solve it via technology. I was, to be honest with you, kind of starting getting a little bored with all the telecom business, because it takes forever for things to happen there. I mean, telecoms are so conservative. They just, don't like change, to put it mildly. So yeah, I was looking to do something else. And this was an idea that kind of grew on me for a certain period of time. And then finally kind of culminated in Novakid.
Okay, and most of the teachers on the platform, they are native English speaking teachers from different Anglophone countries.
It's either native speaking teachers or bilingual teachers who speak English fluently.
Brilliant. And they are mostly from Anglophone countries or bilingual? Okay, so they could be like any teachers. Okay, I get it. Okay. And how do you ensure personalized teaching? Like, how do you make the teaching very personalized on your platform? How does it differ from other platforms?
Well, because with digital, we really record and collect a lot of data. I mean, of course, obviously for security purposes, but also for personalization purposes. So we really track a lot of kind of things, how students perform on our curriculum, what kind of skills they manage to acquire, which kind of skills they're struggling with. Both our teachers help with that as well. So when they teach, that there is some points in the lesson where they actually are evaluating the student, how well is he or she is doing on certain skill sets. And we use all this data to proactively personalize the curriculum. So basically, our goal is for every student to basically see a different curriculum on Novakid, depending on his or her strengths and weaknesses, because all kids are wildly different. I have 3 kids myself, and they're just nothing like each other. Completely different personalities, completely different learning styles. And I can only imagine what it is, out there if it's like this in my family. It must be pretty wild everywhere else.
Sure. And most of your customers, are they from a particular country, or is it worldwide, or are there particular countries that are your big, avenues?
So at the moment, we're the biggest school in Europe. So it's Europe, Middle East. Those are the kind of big regions for us. So Europe in like a bigger sense, European Union, Eastern Europe, Russia, all these countries are our markets. But recently, we also started expanding into Asia. And we think that, countries obviously like Japan, Korea, they have very strong demand for English learning. Also, Southeast Asia, countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, we see a lot of demand for our services there. So basically, it's probably going to be sky's the limit for us. We're gonna keep opening new markets. I think that's kind of what we do well, and we're gonna continue doing that.
And I suppose during the pandemic, the number of students must have increased drastically because now there's not much option of doing physical lessons outside.
Yes, it definitely nudged our potential customers in the right direction by taking away a bad option, which I truly believe it's usually bad. Offline options are just substandard, and most people would go there just because they don't know there's any better option, or they just go through with inertia. So it definitely helped, and we did see a significant boost. I think it was about 700% growth year on year, and it definitely, yes. So basically, the short answer is yes. There was a significant boost.
But do you expect the growth to kind of slow down now that the pandemic is coming to an end, or are you looking at other avenues for growth? How are you projecting your post-pandemic strategy?
Well, we actually are working in our kind of side project, the genetics lab, trying to see if we can kind of come up with the new strains of COVID to keep the pandemic going.
Wow. You really had me there. I'm like, wow, so he has a side project in a genetics lab? Okay. All right.
Yeah, but seriously, we certainly, basically we kind of using this moment to consolidate our position as a market leader, and use it as a scaling opportunity for us. We, don't expect it to be carrying us forward, forever. So at some point, of course, pandemic will be over, but at that point, basically, we will be big enough to take on the job of essentially educating the remaining customers who lived under the rock all through the pandemic and didn't manage to find us online, that online is really a great option. So I think what it helps to do is really build this critical mass of referrals that just enables business to grow more organically over time. And as you probably know, basically solving this kind of product virality is really one of the most crucial points any startup can do to build in virality into their product.
Brilliant. So when you spoke of you had clients in the European Union, for instance, do you have corporate clients, or do you have more than clients who are like not students, but like, companies getting students or hiring your service for students?
No, we don't want to B2B to do B2B yet. It's too early. we may look into that at some point, basically collaborating probably with some of the language studios. But I think you know, we're not quite there, because in order to do that, you already need to have established credibility with consumers, right? So in order for businesses to adopt you, for example, as a curriculum, to license curriculum for us, there needs to be a certain degree of recognition, I guess. And I don't think we're quite there. Maybe 1 year from now or so.
Okay. All right. So how exactly does marketing work on an education platform? So like, what are the key marketing strategies that you're pursuing?
Really, I don't think there's anything terribly special there. It's just, digital marketing in all its forms and aspects. In our case, mostly we use web marketing, because most of our customers discover us through web. We don't really use our mobile app as a kind of onboarding tool, because we found that to be, it just doesn't work that well. Because usually you would like to take a trial lesson on a bigger screen, and it's just easier to do it on the web. So start with influencers, get yourself some credibility through that, and after that, follow up with performance marketing, follow up with just kind of more brand oriented marketing, brand recognition type of marketing, and make sure you have your retargeting in place. I would say more or less it's a standard mixture, but you have to kind of put these things together in order for this to work.
So what's one important thing you've learned in your entire journey of building Novakid? Like, what's one key thing that has, stuck with you all these years?
Well, there hasn't been so many, right? The company is just, a little bit over 3 years old. So I hope we'll still learn a lot of things. But, probably one of the things that stands out is the nature of relationship with investors, and how important it is to actually cultivate those relationships. Because, if you're not inside of that world, it seems like, it should be pretty simple. You have a great startup, there's some investors, somebody likes you and basically makes you an offer, makes an investment. But the reality is that it's an extremely relationship driven market, and you really need to invest time and energy into building out those personal relationship with those partners at those investment firms over time, right? So when the time is for you to raise the money, they would already know who you are. They already know what you did, how you did it, in the past. Hopefully, you gave them some updates on your performance, over a couple of quarters, so they can really see that you deliver on your promises. And then it just makes the process a whole lot meaningful and smoother for both parties, really.
And could you name us some startups or some companies that inspire you, that you want to be like, that have actually shaped the way for you?
I would say that definitely, transformative companies such as Uber, for example. I mean, it's not super sexy governance wise, right? Because of the certain issues that they had. But I think basically any company that is transformative, that is innovating, and basically changing the world around us is something I'm really keen on. Very very inspired by the corporate culture of Zappos, Netflix, and we really adopt a lot of innovations that they did internally, as a company. Because one thing that many people forget is, to build a successful company, you actually need to innovate, not just externally, but also internally. Because, without it, what is a company, right? It's the team that performs, right? And the only way for the team to perform is really to perform better than other teams, is really for something to be different, right? So to take some different approaches to motivating people, hiring people, firing people. All this also has to also gives you competitive edge.
So could you name us one mistake that you've made in building your company that you would remember not to make again?
One mistake in building a company. That's a good one. Just, again, there's so many. It's just it's hard to pick one. Yeah, I think it's kind of normal to learn by mistakes. And so, for example, our first marketer, was extremely. It seemed like was extremely competent person. Did all the right things, but at some point, it just turned out that she was not a team player, right? That we could not scale the marketing team beyond that person, and that was a hiring mistake that we had to correct. And basically we learned that, hey, you need to look at the soft skills and kind of team player capabilities of the person, especially if you have some hopes for them to be a kind of team lead or even director at the future time.
No, for sure. I think usually when we ask these questions in interviews, most people actually answer by saying it was an HR, kind of like a hiring mistake that they made early on in the company. And then it's kind of hard to, get rid of the person or to hire someone new. So yeah. What do you think of retaining talent during coronavirus instead of laying them off? Because a lot of countries are encouraging that you keep your employees because otherwise when it comes back to after the virus, you'll have to start looking for new ones.
I mean, I think the business is a business, right? And you got to do what you got to do. It's unfortunately that's just the reality of things. And I think for any business, it's an opportunity to really look at your team. Is it really the right size? Because sometimes, as you mentioned, kind of during the growth, you hire the not quite the right people for your team, and it's actually, I think, a very big disservice to those people as well, because essentially they could have been spending those months and years in better company that matches them better rather than at your company. So I don't really believe in just retaining for the sake of retaining. Having said that, I mean, if you have a hunch that there is a growth coming, of course it makes sense to retain people, because as much as you can, of course, financially, right? If you have enough resources, if you have belief in your market that it will bounce back, of course you should do it. But fortunately for us, it's more of a hypothetical question, because we actually have been hiring like crazy all this time. So for us, the bigger question is, how do you make sure you hire the right talent, and how do you make sure that you have enough talent density in your team as you scale? That is really a bigger question that kind of nothing really keeps me up at night. I sleep well, but let's say wakes me up in the morning.
All right. So what do you think about the ed tech, the education tech scene in general? Because we have so many exciting companies, entering the funding rounds, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think the future of this field holds?
I think it's really interesting because education has been traditionally one of the most conservative areas. And I think, if we manage to kind of upend the education, probably, political system will be the next, right? Some kind of polittech, polittech, whatever you would call it. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen there. I really hope that my kids will be schooled differently, that they will have more options, especially on kind of flexibility side of things. What I would call, they would be able to prepare a more custom educational salad for themselves. Essentially similar to what you would have in your like higher ed and in universities, where you can actually pick and choose which subjects you want to take. I hope that public schools will actually be more like that as we go forward, and more flexible, more personal for each student. So hopefully, and at the same time, the physical aspect of the public schools, where basically physical classrooms, hopefully will dedicate more time to soft skills, developing soft skills of the students, collaborating, team playing, etc.
Brilliant. So, okay, so I have one last question for you, which is, what would you be doing if not what you're doing with your company right now? What would be your alternative career choice?
Alternative career choice. Good question. I would probably be software engineer. I would build software.
A software engineer. So
Yeah,
you would eventually end up making a new company. Is that what you're saying?
No, well, I think it might certainly happen, because obviously I did it once already, so I may do it again. Never say never. So yeah, let's see. Life's a long journey.
Well, best of luck for it. And if something else happens, I would be happy to interview you again in like a year's time. And well, thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. That was Max Azarov, who is the co-founder of Novakid, which is a next generation early English learning platform. Thanks for joining us, Max.
Thank you, Sakshan. Have a great day.
Yeah, check out the website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month.